BlacKkKlansman. That's right, folks. To round out our month of Spike Lee, we are finishing Spiketember with his Oscar winning screenplay. Interesting, isn't it? This is a movie that I remember when it came out. It was kind of like this is going to be the one that the Academy pays attention to for whatever reason. It just seems like we're more socially conscious of like Spike Lee as a filmmaker, so they're going to give it awards recognition. He's got to win one. It's in a really bad year that the movie comes out and Green Book wins, and you're like, what? I think a lot of people remember Spike Lee's reaction to that movie winning opposed to BlacKkKlansman because this movie's just better than Green Book, and I think it's doing some similar things to Green Book, which is just like racism. It's in America. It's in either like today or yesterday, but it's still there. And it handles it better. Like, it's a smarter movie than Green Book. I don't even know why we're talking about Green Book. That's not the comparison I really want to make here. We've had some duds in Spiketember. We talked about some bad Spike Lee movies. So to round it out, let's talk about one it's pretty good. You know, I remember when this came out, I enjoyed it. I was like, this is interesting. And then, it's been like 6 years. The more I've thought about him, and the more I've explored his filmography and just like honed how I view film, I really think this is an underplayed movie, which is kind of interesting to think about. That this becomes the one that gets him the awards recognition. This is a very quiet movie. It's very stiff, very somber, and very just low effort and low energy. The stakes are very minimal. There is a lot of loudness that comes from it, but I think the loudness is more from the script, and maybe that's why it got the script win. The directing isn't loud. It doesn't have like the typical Spike Lee like loudness to it. And maybe it's him more like, I kind of just want to be contemplative for a minute, talk about some stuff, think about things, exist in this world. This is loosely based on true events. There was this man, Ron Stallworth, who was undercover going into the Ku Klux Klan in Colorado Springs, and he infiltrated that in some capacity with like the help of the police force there, and they took out an attempt of something that was going to go bad. That's a great premise for a movie. What if an African American man was a police officer and he infiltrated the KKK? That sells itself. And I think with that premise too, there are so many directions you can pull that into. You can go straight up comedy, kind of like a Blazing Saddles thing if you wanted. You could go like a Black Dynamite political satire thing where it's like over the top Shaft parody, where it's like, here's like a vengeful blaxploitation film. Or you could do what Spike Lee did and just be like, it's Colorado, people just live here and exist here and they have lives and stuff. And it's like weird energy. Low stakes energy. Like there's so little being done here. It's very interesting to think about. Like going back to it, I'm like, is this gonna do anything? Like we're really quiet, and it's kind of funny because it opens up with Alec Baldwin being like, black people, what are they doing? We shouldn't have them here. They should kind of just stop existing. They're a problem to this country. And it's bad. And that becomes the like apparent thing for this movie. White people be crazy and they be tripping. There is a lot of complicated language in this movie. A lot of stuff I am not going to say because we are on the internet and I don't want to get flagged on some of these platforms for saying these words. This script has a lot of very specific slurs and ideas of racism. And it handles them in the way that Spike Lee wants to, which is you have to say it. You have to say it, even if it's like as a joke or you're being like facetious about it. You have to say these things because that is what these people think. I think some of the actors are very much aware of that. Like, let's play this up for the cameras. Let's be camp and stupid and silly. Like Topher Grace is a great example of that. I think Paul Walter Hauser's a great example of that. And then you have guys like Adam Driver who come in and you're just like, this is serious. I'm going to treat this seriously. We're saying the same things in like a different way, but I'm going to treat this in a more serious manner and approach it from that way. Where someone like Topher Grace, who's playing like the Grand Master or something of the Ku Klux Klan, he is just like, isn't it weird how they talk? this is kind of silly. Like, these people are kind of silly. And he's fully aware of, like, what he's doing and the jokes he's making. The performances in this movie kind of sell it, you know, because they're all kind of just in different movies and experiences. Like, this is a very early, like, John David Washington starring movie, and he has kind of popped off recently. I think Tenet's more where he popped off, but for, like, your big debut, like, I'm working with, like, a black filmmaker, I'm the son of a prominent black actor, how am I going to present on camera? There is a confidence and a suaveness that does come from his lineage, of course, and he just has a very different energy than his father and a very different presence on screen. It's not as, like, loud or, like, in your face as, like, Denzel. He is just more, I'm here, let's get it done. There's a confidence to that and an assurance to that, but he handles it very differently, and it works really well for his character. So this guy, Ron, he gets a job on the police force. That's what he's always wanted to do. They stick him in the mailroom, and then he kind of, like, works his way up. They're like, well, we want to go undercover at, like, this speech that's happening in Colorado. Like, it's the Black Students Union. They put together this thing. Corey Hawkins, he plays Kwame Torre, and he's, like, this radical speaker who was part of the Black Panthers, and he's coming to his town. They want to figure out, like, these white cops want to figure out, are these black people going to get riled up? So he goes undercover there, and that's where he meets Laura Harrier, and she is fantastic. I wish she popped off more, you know? Like, I think she's a really cool young actress that has a very distinctive energy, and I kind of think she should, like, get another big push like this. Maybe not, like, the love interest to one of these characters. Like, let's see what you got. This being her performance, like, a year after starring in Spider-Man Homecoming, that's crazy, because these are two very distinctive things. And I really think, like, they have good chemistry, so they hit it off. So, like, he's undercover, but he's starting to like this girl. She's, like, the president of, like, the union. And then it just leads to him reading a newspaper where he sees, like, the Ku Klux Klan. If you have questions, call us. And he calls them and learns about their chapter. And then that's when the investigation starts. And this is like a crime thriller. It's just like, we're going to infiltrate this gang. We're going to figure out what their plan is. And then we're going to stop it from happening in the most low energy way we could do that. There's no insane camera movements. There's no insane, like, ballistic shots going all over the place of people. They're like, look, guns are fired, but not often. And it's just more like quiet, contemplative, like, all right, look at how it takes the time to show you these white people are stupid and they don't understand anything and they're lame. And look at like these, you know, guys that just, like, go out into the woods and shoot guns at stuff. And, like, they have, like, a wife who's like, I'm part of the cause, but I'm just kind of my own place. And it both presents as just, like, naturalistic and look at these idiots, which I think is kind of what it had to do in some sense. I don't think anyone in the audience would be against, like, hamming it up. It's kind of like what you do with the Nazis. Just make them the asshole villains and nobody's going to be upset. It's the KKK. If you make them out to be the bad guys, which they are, and you should make them out to be the bad guys, no one's going to be mad if it's like a cartoonishly evil KKK, because we all know what the KKK was. I gotta stop saying it. So make them look bad. You know, instead of just being like guys sitting around shooting pool, drinking beer, talking about how much they, like, hate Jewish people or whatever. It's bad and it's naturalistic, and I think that's the point Spike's trying to make, where this is just, it exists still. No, like, there's still Nazi parties out in the world. Like, there's still people that are like this. This movie comes out in the middle of the Trump era of politics, and I'm almost positive a lot of this movie is a response to that, where you talk about this story about having this guy in charge who lets this shit happen. And it's scary and stupid. And we're going back to that, aren't we? I don't know. Let's not talk about that. Good performances from John David Washington. Adam Driver gets the, like, Academy nom. Very good. Like, what he's asked to do is very impressive. Again, very low key, very low stakes, and that works well for him. I really appreciate that. There's something very calming about this movie, and I don't think it, like, goes loud at any point. I think that's kind of cool. You know, it kind of, like, comes to a head when we're going to, like, have, like, an induction ceremony We're going to get like David Duke to come down and like watch our induction ceremony. Meanwhile, like there's this guy named Felix, and he's kind of like the biggest racist of all. He's going to get his wife to plant a bomb on Laura Harrier's character, so like the student, like the Black Alliance at the college gets destroyed, and they kill this woman. That's the big stakes. That's the crime we're going to stop. Clearly, we're not going to shut down the KKK today, but we can stop this one thing from happening, and that's kind of the plot of the movie. And they do. And that is when the most action takes place. It's people running down the street, driving in cars, chasing this woman. And I really like the performance from Ashley Atkinson. Is that her name? It is Ashley Atkinson. You get very limited screen time, but you're kind of a very crucial point, because you either play it like, oh, my husband, I'm just a loving wife, or you lean heavily into, I'm a part of this too. And she does both. She does both really well when the switch occurs. It's really interesting to see. Gets a lot to do there. I think it's cool. I'm just very surprised by the energy that this movie was exuding, because the way people talk about it, or like the way I think it's culturally remembered, it's like, we're doing a big Spike Lee thing. We're going to be saying big words, taking down the Ku Klux Klan. Everything's getting intense. A black man's going to infiltrate the Ku Klux Klan, but it's more like a crime thriller, and it plays out like that. I'm like, it's not even like on a Michael Mann level of like guys in masks with big guns and intense digital camera work. It's just more, look at Colorado. There's like a cesspool of racism here. And we're kind of building it in the right way, but even the police that are working with this guy are hesitant on it. When they solve the case, stop the bomb, the people in the sheriff's like, well, we have to scrub any evidence or any connections to this case from ever being revealed, because God forbid we admit that maybe we have connections to the KKK within our, police bureau. And you're like, okay, that's really what this was about. We get to spend 2 hours watching this build up to this thing, and then ultimately it just ends with like, well, the police are still going to cover it up because, rich white people stick by rich white people. We talked about it last week when we said She Hate Me, okay? Spike Lee movies are about white people not letting black people exist in like a proper space or having issues there. And this movie is another prime example of that. You have a black police officer who is literally trying to stop racism in a town, and the people are like, it's not that easy. And even if it is, even if we show you that we can stop this, well, what did we really accomplish? Kind of some stuff, but David Duke still gets to like go away. He just spends like a couple times on the phone, and then like the ultimate payoff is like making fun of him for not realizing he was talking to a black man. I do really like that moment where they make Ron have to like be his like security for like the meeting, and he gets a picture of him and he like puts his arms around him and everyone freaks out. That's really good. That's a strong moment. Like, that's also just Topher Grace being really good at this one thing, and John David Washington being really good at like this one thing. Two guys who are just camping it up, and when it camps itself up, energy is in there, but it's very low energy film. And then it ends with more footage. It's something we know Spike Lee likes to do, showing you real life footage of racism throughout the world. A lot of Charlottesville stuff this time around. That was kind of like the prominent thing happening at the time. And it just reminds you, like, this is a 6-year-old movie. 2 years removed from this movie, we're going to get to Five Bloods. Same thing being said there. Like, we're still here. We still had Do the Right Thing come out in 1989, and he is still talking about the same stuff because nothing has changed. And that is very interesting to see portrayed. 30 years removed, he's still saying the same stuff in new context, and it's as poignant as ever. And maybe that's why his films hold up so good, except for like She Hate Me and Girl 6, the two we watched that are terrible. But Do the Right Thing and BlacKkKlansman, you could probably watch them 30 years on again, and there's still going to be some very important context said that is relevant to the times they are a part of. Well, I don't think this is the strongest film we've talked about. It's the second one, because Do the Right Thing is a perfect movie, and this is a solid like 7 out of 10. it is so interesting to see, like, this is it. This is the script that's very loud and brilliant. And then the energy we put into that is not as like high volume as the script we have, but the actors are doing very good. The sets are very cool. And the message we're saying, it's the message Spike's saying his whole career. That's pretty impressive to see. So we'll be back talking Spike at some point. You know, I want to talk Malcolm X. I want to talk Crooklyn. I'm probably going to talk about his Old Boy movie. Next for Spike Lee is going to be his loose interpretation of Akira Kurosawa's High and Low. That is scheduled, that he said, to probably come out next year. We'll talk about it when it's out, because the other thing we know about Spike is that he is a film nerd and he's going to make a film nerd movie. You got this out of your system for now. Go make your weird Kurosawa film that's going to have Denzel, so let's see what you got. I like this film. I think the Oscar it got is deserved. It maybe should have got more because Green Book sucks, and this movie is way better than that. But these things are still prevalent today, man. And this is kind of based on a true story, so that's kind of weird too. But hey, that's BlacKkKlansman, a good film. Thank you all for watching this episode. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.